Kip Webster is a regional coordinator for the John Birch Society. He is a behind-the-scenes guy part of it, but he's responsible for putting all of this together and getting it coordinated and doing tons. He probably drove up from New Jersey again today with it. He gets all over the place. Kip is going to introduce Hal. A little bit of background.
Hal Shurtleff was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. He served 9 years in the U.S. Army and Army Reserve. He joined the John Birch Society in 1988. He started a local chapter of the John Birch Society, and he came on staff in 1990. He became the New England coordinator that year. He was appointed regional field director in 2000. Hal has appeared as a guest on numerous radio and cable TV shows throughout the Northeast, and as a speaker at patriotic and civic organizations. Hal is a well-sought-out speaker on the topic of Agenda 21. He's married and has 5 children, one of which, Nathaniel, is filming this presentation tonight. Okay, he's also my supervisor, which I guess makes his job a little tougher than it has to be sometimes. So please give a warm welcome to Hal Shurtleff.
If I had a list of things that I accomplished as a field staff member of the John Birch Society, probably the first thing I would do is that I hired Kip Webster, because he's doing a phenomenal job here down in this region. Anyway, I think it's important to point out that we in the freedom movement, and by the way, I was honored to be at Lexington Green April 19th a couple of years ago, and I know some of my friends here, and I took the oath, and I was there working with the Oath Keepers group there. It was a great time. So I was sort of like in on the ground floor, so to speak. And when I took that oath, I was only 17. And I don't think I really realized completely what it meant, but I know it meant for life, not just while I was in the service, or as long as I was collecting a benefit from the government. No, this was a lifetime commitment. That oath is forever. So anyway, before I begin, I think it's important to point out that I think we in the freedom movement, we want to have clean air. We want to have forests and trees and animals and things of that nature. And I think the best way to do that is through the free market system. Believe it or not, free market system is the best way. Private property and man's ingenuity is the best way to solve our problems. Not through an entity called the UN and its arm called Agenda 21. Right? Well, we didn't grow up in a cold water flat, but we had, my mother had to stretch the meals for a week sometimes. It was tough living in Boston in the 60s, and my dad was a pharmacist, but I didn't make much money in those days. We didn't have a car. My mother was an environmentalist long before it became fashionable. She had a solar dryer. Yeah. It was a piece of string that you'd put clothes on. You see? And we used to cut coupons, and we used to return bottles before there was a bottle bill, because it was economically viable to do that. My son and I went to the Trash Museum up here in Hartford a couple of years ago, and they told me it's a non-profit corporation that takes your trash and they make money with it, right? Now, that wasn't always possible, but thanks to the innovations, it's now possible. I look at it this way. If I buy stuff from the grocery store or from wherever, and I throw it away, and someone picks it up and sells it, shouldn't they give me money for it? Right? And recycling, I think, is when it's viable. My uncle was a junk man from Lawrence, Massachusetts. He taught me a lot driving through Lawrence. I believe in urban gleaning. Right? I believe in recycling, called yard sales, when you find things. And when I don't want the stuff, I put it out in front of my home. And what does the state come by? This government comes by and gives me a ticket for putting my trash out too soon. Here I am recycling. I go jogging. I want to see clean woods and clean. There's the oldest canal that goes through a section of Boston. I used to live in Hyde Park. And it was a bunch of debris, computer terminals, tires, and so forth. So one morning, I'm piling this all up, and my goal was to call the city truck, come by and clean it up. I'm doing that, and the city truck comes by. The driver comes by. I flagged them down and I said, can I put this stuff in the back of your truck? There was a big pile of debris. No one told me to do it. You know, free market system. And people, local communities want to take action. He said, you're dumping. I'm running, you know. I mean, I said, you're crazy. You're a liar. You can't call me a liar while you're lying. He was going to call the police on me because I'm trying to clean up. I'm trying to be a good steward of the earth that God gave us. Anyway, he ended up, I said, I was happy to pile it up, and I said, you don't want to call the police, it's going to be embarrassing you, and so forth. So, yeah, eventually he picked it up, and the police, I just kept running. Another time I see about truck batteries, about 12 truck batteries, somebody dumped near a stream. I called up the environmental hotline, right? Did you see the vehicle that dropped the stuff out? Did you see who did it? No. I said, but it's right by a stream, it's going into the river. Well, that's not our department. They really didn't care. They wanted to make a bust, you see. So they weren't really interested in cleaning. And you know what? After a Tea Party rally, isn't it the area cleaner? Or Oath Keepers, you know, that April 19th, Lexington Green, but it was spotless. But I guarantee you, after like an Earth Day rally, pretty dirty place. Pretty dirty place, right? Also, you've heard a lot about green jobs, green technology. Well, some of this technology is nothing new about it. Electric cars were around for 100 years. They're nothing new, right? And I mentioned the clothesline, the solar dryers, right? The windmills are 200, 400-year-old technology, and not very viable, folks. I mean, it has limited applications. Lots of people want to get off the grid and get one, and that's fine, right? But hydroelectric power is very good. But these environmentalists, Agenda 21 people, want to do away with the dams. Okay, and when my colleague, a friend of mine that does a lot of these presentations with me, tells me they're trying to destroy a dam in Bonneville, which is in Ware, Massachusetts. It used to provide electricity for a mill that closed up 50 years ago. Now it's a stack 'em and pack 'em housing, Section 8, and they think we can restore this. Oh no, there's no money for that, you see. So they really don't want us to be totally independent, these folks at Agenda 21 types. And you remember, what was that big company in California that got your money, the taxpayers' money, for green technology? Right? Solandra, right? In the tank now, bankruptcy, right? In Massachusetts, there was a green company in what is now called Devens, Massachusetts. It used to be Fort Devens. By the way, Devens belongs to the ICLEI, International Council on Local Environmental Initiative. Well, $65 million of the taxpayers' money in Massachusetts went to this company, and they just announced that we're going to Communist China. Well, they don't say Communist China because we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, you know. So thank you very much, taxpayer. They could give it. They had 500 employees. They have to fire them all, and they're setting up shop in China. That's your green technology. That's the wave of the future, right? Okay, Agenda 21. I want to do a little background on the parent organization first, okay, before we talk about Agenda 21. And here you see two contrasting documents. Actually, there should be a third, the Communist Manifesto, but the UN Charter can take its place, but it's pretty consistent to the... Has anyone ever read the Communist Manifesto, by the way? A lot of people have, okay. There are 10 planks of the manifesto. And Karl Marx basically said, if you get these 10 planks, you have yourselves a socialist country. They didn't even use the word communist for the first 20 or 30 years, right? That was added later, okay? One of the key planks is the end of private property, the abolition of private property, and the total control of education. Do we see that just a little bit happening in our country? Also, a state control of the banks, too, right? State control of credit. We see that through the Federal Reserve Bank. So it's very important to understand the 10 planks, and you can see what the Obama administration is doing and how consistent it is. And it's not just Obama. A lot of people with R besides their names are doing the same thing. The UN Charter and the U.S. Constitution are diametrically opposite documents. And why is that? The Constitution was written to protect rights that already belong to us. God-given rights, natural rights. The UN Charter granted rights. They were the source of the rights. And then within a paragraph later, they qualify those rights out of existence. All the time.